Welcome to the College Recruiter webinar series. The subject of today's discussion will be on communication skills, interacting in the workplace. This is part 3 of a 3-part webinar series on communication skills. My name is Andrea McEwen Henderson, and I will be your host today. I am one of the national account managers with College Recruiter. I have a dozen years of experience in helping large and small employers reach recent college graduates and students. My primary responsibilities are facilitating our webinars, moderating the discussions at our college recruiting bootcamp conferences, as well as working with small to mid-sized employers on their entry-level hiring needs. College Recruiter is the highest traffic college job board with 150,000 unique monthly visitors. We help employers reach recent graduates and students of 1, 2, and 4-year colleges and graduate schools. We have permission to deliver emails on behalf of our employer clients to 7 million recent graduates and 10 million students, and can also target them by major, school, year of graduation, diversity, and more. Our other solutions for employers include job postings, targeted mobile banner ads, targeted display ads, virtual career fairs, and custom research projects. For more information about College Recruiter, you can reach us at www.collegerecruiter.com/contact or 952-848-2211. Today's guest is Bethany Wallace, English instructor at the University of Arkansas Community College at Batesville. Bethany has a background in academic advising and career services and enjoys working in higher education. She currently teaches English composition and oral communication courses and helps her students understand the importance of applying academic concepts to life beyond the classroom. Follow Bethany on Twitter at Wallace M. Bethany or on WordPress at justwheat, WHEAT.wordpress.com. Bethany, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So let's just dive right in about as we begin to talk about communication and interacting in the workplace. So how is communicating in the workplace different than communicating in other settings?
I think that communicating in the workplace honestly isn't completely different from communicating in other places. The main thing to keep in mind is that the setting is different because you're at work, so you're working ideally, and the content is different because you're communicating about work. And so you're not going to be hopefully chit-chatting about, what you did at 3 in the morning with your friends or those sorts of things. You reserve those conversations for people, who are your best friends, or maybe family members or people you're very close to outside of work. So the nature of the relationships you have with your coworkers or your supervisors are different than the relationships that you have with coworkers. And so you have to establish boundaries with people you work with, and those boundaries are going to just be different in nature than the boundaries you have with people who you're friends with or you're very intimate with in other parts of your life. In all areas of life, we build relationships, and that's not different at work. Even if you try to keep yourself apart at work and sort of put up walls because you're at work and you're just going to work and keep to yourself, you're still creating an impression about yourself with your coworkers. And so that's still some sort of relationship that you have. So, that's just something to keep in mind there.
So what are the most important characteristics of an effective workplace communication?
Oh, there's so many. I would think that the first one is everyone can benefit from just treating people with basic kindness, respect, and courtesy. And those can be, just as simple as extending, a handshake to people or opening a door, saying thank you, saying please, saying you're welcome, greeting people by their name instead of just saying, oh, hey, without a name, because that just personalizes a greeting and people appreciate it when you remember their name and they feel, like you care about them just a little bit.
That's true.
If you recall their name. And also, it gives people the impression that you're building a rapport and a positive relationship with people you work with, and that can go a long way. If you work in a large organization and you're remembered for remembering people, then later if you do try to, apply for a promotion or a position outside of your department, then that can really help you later on. So that's one thing. Another thing is to always remember to know your audience. And this is the same as, those composition courses that you take in college. Those English professors will always tell you, know your audience when you're writing. Well, that's the same at work. Part of that is just being professional. So know your audience in the sense of you're at work, act like you're at work. But also keep in mind that you work with people of different cultures. You work with people of different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different social settings. So remember that when you're talking, even if it's in a casual setting, in a break room, at lunch, that you need to keep in mind that people come from all different backgrounds. And not that you need to walk on eggshells, but you just need to be respectful and mindful of that so that you can be courteous to the people you're around at work, because it's not the same as just hanging out with your buddies. Another thing is to really try to collaborate with people at work. People who I know, who I respect at work, are good collaborators. So they look for opportunities to work on teams with people and share their ideas. They don't hoard all their good ideas to themselves and then wait for an opportunity to showcase it. They really try to share that stuff with other people. Like my boss, for example, when I started teaching, she basically opened up this big folder of all the handouts she'd ever created for Comp 1 and 2 and said, use whatever you like. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. It would have taken me forever to create all that stuff myself. Mm-hmm. And she just wanted to help me. And she had nothing to gain from sharing that stuff with me, except that it would help me. And she's the division chair. If it helps me, then it helps her. So, collaboration is a good thing. And also to encourage other people is very important. There's a statistic from the Department of Labor that says that the number one reason people leave their jobs is because they don't feel appreciated. And that was a little staggering to me, because I sort of thought maybe it would be they don't make enough money, or because they don't get promoted or something. But it's because they don't feel appreciated. And we, as just little peons in the workplace, can actually have an impact on that simply by showing appreciation to other people whom we work with, and just saying thank you, sending an email saying good job on a project that you did. So just little simple ways to show appreciation can go a long way at work. Make sure that we're honest with each other, but that we use discretion in how we're honest. So, you don't want to slam people with your honesty, but be kind when you're honest with them. And then also pay attention to that listening factor. I think that's probably the biggest key to being a great communicator at work, is to be a good listener. And when you're listening, to actually truly listen, not just hear what someone's saying, but mindfully listen and not wait for your turn to speak. That can be important, not just in a meeting, but just in an everyday conversation with someone. And I think I'm always surprised how much more I retain from what somebody is saying when I'm actually mindfully listening to them and not planning what I'm saying in response. So those are some of the things that I think are most important.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, technology plays a big part in almost every day, every work setting today. So how should we utilize technology when communicating in the workplace?
Well, the first thing I would suggest is to put down the phone. And my toddler actually has said that to me before. She only had to say it once before it kind of startled me into realizing I probably was carrying my phone around the house too much. And I was like, oh no. So
it's bad when a toddler says that, but go ahead.
No, yeah, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm putting down the phone. You're right, Maggie. So I put down the phone, and at work, I'm trying to do the same thing. And even if I go visit someone in their office, I'm putting down my phone, because I think it's pretty rude to go visit somebody and say, I'm coming to visit you and just see how you're doing on a project, or I just stopped by to say hi. But then I pick up my phone and I'm looking at a notification somebody sent me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not really coming to see you, and then checking my own stuff. That's like very contradictory. It's just rude, honestly. It's rude.
Yes.
And I think in our society, we really have become so accustomed to doing it that we excuse it in each other. But at work, I think we really need to be, that's one of those professional things that we really need to establish is a courtesy to each other, that when we're face to face, we need to be face to face and give each other the respect of just completely, you know, giving each other undivided attention and away from devices. And of course, if you're in a company and that's not the norm and your boss tells you, I totally don't mind if you're checking your email while we're having this meeting, then go for it. But I think that at most companies, it's expected that if your boss is talking to you face to face, he probably doesn't want you also on your phone. But that might not be the norm where you work, so always check for your company culture or policy. Also, there is actually research that shows that if you meet with people face to face, it can actually save time, because there's a lot of going back and forth in email and misunderstandings that can occur when all you have is words. And so sometimes just meeting face to face for a few minutes can kind of dispel some of that confusion. So there's something to be said about face to face meetings.
Totally agreed. Totally agreed.
Yeah. And I think the biggest reason that I would really champion face to face is because of sort of why the name of this whole webinar series is Beyond Text, is that channel lean communication is text only. And channel rich communication is everything that's included when you're face to face. So channel lean is like a text message or an email. All you have are words. And you can see why that's lean. Because, think about those times when you get a text from somebody and it says, you say, can you get some milk? And they respond and say, whatever. Do they mean whatever, like, I don't want to get it and I hate your guts, whatever? Or do they mean, whatever, I have no problem with getting it? Well, you have no idea because it's channel lean. If it's channel rich and you're face to face, then you can read their facial expression. You can read if they're shrugging their shoulders or not. You can read if they extend their arms to you, if they give you a hug. You can read, actually, hair is part of, nonverbal communication, voice tone, all of that stuff is so, indicative of what somebody means. So face-to-face communication is so channel rich. So I would just encourage you always at work, if you have the opportunity, to make it channel rich. And honestly, even Skype is a better version of communication than just email or text, because at least you're getting to see someone. I'm getting to see Andrea's, clothes or necklace. If she smiles at me, I can at least see that. It's even better than the phone, because at least on the phone, I can hear her voice inflections, but I can't see her. So always go for the closest version of face-to-face that you can get if you can't get face-to-face.
I like that, channel rich. Have to keep that in mind. And my final, I have another question. What are the some of the common workplace communication pitfalls that should be avoided?
Okay. So one is, we all know networking is super important in the workplace. You need to network with people you work with, but one thing you really need to avoid when you're networking is to just blow your time management. So you don't want to use up all your work time networking at work. And I see this happen sometimes, that, people will just kind of float around the workplace networking with people. But really, it's just killing time. And, I've done this before, like when I'm procrastinating on a project, I'm like, I'm just going to go visit like this person or that person. But, you can't make a huge habit of doing this all the time, or you will not just kill your productivity, but like everyone else's too. And so you got to really stick to, if you're going to network with people you work with, make it on times when it's appropriate, like your break time, or lunch, or after work at work events, work-related events. Those are appropriate times for networking, but not, really like during actual work time. because then you're really cutting into time that's supposed to be spent on actual work projects. So that's something to consider. Another thing is don't try to avoid jumping right into conversations about really serious matters at work without at least exchanging some sort of pleasantry like, hi, how are you doing today? Even just that kind of breaks the ice with someone. If you call someone, you have to talk about something really serious at work. It's a bad idea to just start hammering them. And you'll really notice this when you become a supervisor. But it's just important to establish some sort of common ground with someone or ease the tension before you start a serious conversation. And I know this book has been just overused and probably has become a cliche, but seriously, Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is a great book. And I reread it again this summer, and I was like, man, this book is great. I'm going to use it in World Communication this fall. And it is a good book. If you don't understand how to do those sort of really difficult, delicate things, I would recommend reading it. I've never been to any of those classes they do or anything like that. I just think the actual old book from the beginning of the century, last century, is great. And another thing is to try to always resolve conflict as quickly as possible. And I think there's a big difference between being aggressive and assertive. And so I try to avoid being like the aggressive bulldog. But I do think it's important to be proactive and not be like the ostrich sticking my head in the sand, because I have done that in the past before. I'm like, I don't want to see this as a problem. But the problem does not usually go away on its own. In fact, sometimes it will just get bigger and bigger and more complicated. So addressing an issue or a problem while it's tiny and in a kind way, and usually going through your chain of command, whatever it is, in an appropriate way, is a better way to deal with conflict than just ignoring it. And usually, another thing that I do is I've been taught to look at what is my part in it. So if I have a part in the problem, if I look at my part, I can see, okay, yeah, I didn't do this thing that I can go back and correct. And that will help me sometimes to, figure out something that I could do better the next time.
Excellent. So my final question for you is, how can college students and new hires prepare and improve in terms of communication and interaction in the workplace?
The first thing I would suggest is to find a career mentor. And this is not the same as, I know a lot of big corporations now have these mentoring programs on site where they put you in groups with cohorts or whatever. And that's not what I'm talking about. I mean like someone who doesn't work in your organization who can mentor you. And I think that's important because they're totally objective and they have nothing to gain by anything that they say to you. And also, it's not going to hurt their feelings if you say something negative about the place you work. So I think it's good to find someone like that. And if you don't know anyone like that who can help you, you can go back to your alumni office at your alma mater through maybe the career services office, and they can usually pair you up with someone who has similar interests with your long-term career goal, and that can be helpful. And I actually this is where I wanted to show you this. Okay, so I know you can't read the little words on this, but I was going to show you this because this is a vision card that has my little vision statement. All the things I wrote on this, I wrote this almost 10 years ago, are a result of my career mentor. My career mentor is named Samantha Hartley, and she owns a marketing company. But I met her at a conference randomly, and I just really admired her. And I thought, I'm just going to approach her and ask her if she'll mentor me because I think she's awesome. And I was a little scared to do it, but I thought, well, all she can say is no. And she said yes. And so we don't meet all the time. It's just we've met for breakfast and lunch a few random times. And sometimes she meets and helps me just kind of hammer ideas out. Or if I have a specific work-related question that I'm really struggling with, or a conflict I need help resolving, she helps me. With this vision statement, she said, I want you to think about what your ideal job would look like and write a description of that and like keywords. And so I framed it because I want to always go back to that and keep working towards it. And just having somebody like that in your life is huge. And because you never know where you're going to end up. And, I think especially when you're a recent graduate, who knows if the job that you land when you graduate is going to be your end-all, be-all job. I hate to tell you, but probably not. That's not likely. So then that's okay. So just be open to change and be open to whatever happens. But a mentor can really help you. And another part to that is to knowing yourself. So don't be afraid to take some sort of self-analysis, a Myers-Briggs personality inventory, a DISC assessment, or something. And you can do that through your career services office while you're still a student, or maybe go back to them if you've already graduated and take something, because it will help you to understand, what kind of career is a good fit for you, but also how you're going to interact well in the workplace and how you won't interact well, so that you can figure out, oh, that's why I'm clashing with that kind of person. Maybe this is how I can do a better job of that. Because you do have to own your part in that. And it'll help you to maintain positive relationships with everyone as much as it depends on you. All you can own is your part. You're always going to work with people who aren't great people, and then you'll work with some great people who are great people. But you are only in control of your part of that relationship, just like in the rest of life. And then the last thing I would just remind you of is that there's a great quote by Dallas Willard, and it says that the most important thing about a person is not what they do, it is who they become. And so when you're out there and you're changing jobs and you're stressing out about, I did this job and I only did it for 2 years and I'm going to look like a job hopper, it's okay, because everybody does that when they first graduate, for one thing. And also, you just need to remember that if it's not your dream job, you're getting experience. You're learning how to relate to people at work. You're gaining all those valuable job skills that we all have to gain. And so you are becoming a better person. You're becoming a better employee. So don't stress out too much about all the little details.
Great tips. Thank you so much, Bethany, for joining us today as we discuss communication skills interacting in the workplace. This is the final segment of our 3-part webinar series on communication skills. My name is Andrea McEwen Henderson, and I was your host today. I am one of the national account managers with College Recruiter. I have a dozen years of experience in helping large and small employers reach recent college graduates and students. My primary responsibilities are facilitating our webinars, moderating the discussions at our college recruiting bootcamp conferences, as well as working with small to mid-sized employers on their entry-level hiring needs. College Recruiter is the highest traffic college job board with 150,000 unique monthly visitors. We help employers reach recent graduates and students of 1-, 2-, and 4-year colleges and graduate schools. We have permission to deliver emails on behalf of our employer clients, the 7 million recent graduates and 10 million students, and can target them by major, school, year of graduation, diversity, and much more. Other solutions that we have for employers include job postings, targeted mobile banner ads, targeted display ads, virtual career fairs, and custom research projects. For more information about College Recruiter, you can reach us at www.collegerecruiter.com/contact or 952-848-2211. Again, thank you, Bethany, for joining us today.
Thank you.